Charles's POV. I stared at myself in the bathroom mirror, hands trembling. My reflection looked pale and tired, like someone who didn't belong in his own skin. Outside, my father and the board were waiting, papers ready, eyes expectant. Everyone thought I was ready to take over Ellis Vineyard. I wasn't sure I agreed. The vineyard had been in our family for 3 generations. Rows of vines stretched behind the estate, golden in the morning light. People called it a legacy. To me, it felt like a test I hadn't studied for. I pressed my palms against the cold sink, trying to steady my breathing. My pulse wouldn't slow. The faint sounds outside, shuffling papers, low murmurs, only made it worse. I splashed cold water on my face, stared at my reflection, and muttered, "You can do this." Even my voice didn't sound convinced. When I stepped out, the boardroom was ready. My father stood at the head of the table, his expression unreadable. The papers gleamed under the chandelier light, signatures waiting. When Dad handed me the keys, he didn't say, "You're ready." He didn't say, "I trust you." He said, "Don't screw this up, Charles." I nodded, though my hands were still shaking. Signing these papers wasn't just about legal ownership. It was about proving myself, proving that I was capable, that I could handle the vineyard and the legacy, and maybe silently, proving that I could handle Lucas too. And then there was Lucas Valentine, sitting among the boards. I'd seen him at family dinners and board meetings, always on the edge, always calm, always in control. He was older, confident, polished, the kind of person who made everyone around him second-guess themselves. I used to think that was impressive. Now I have realized how dangerous it could be. He arrived that morning for the meeting, extending a hand with a smirk that felt more like a challenge than congratulations. "Charles," he said, "finally running the show?" I forced a smile, trying to. "I hear you're still keeping things interesting." He laughed softly, a sound that was polite, but also sharp. "You'll find the vineyard has its complexities, especially with new leadership," and he was right. The meeting was brutal. Every idea I brought up, modernizing distribution, updating equipment, he questioned. Not aggressively, never openly dismissive, just enough to make everyone pause, to make me doubt myself. When I pushed back, he tilted his head, eyes glinting. "That's the fire I was hoping to see," he said, and I hated that I felt a small surge of pride. My father glanced at him, half warning, half approval. Lucas didn't even flinch. By the end, I was drained, my chest still tight. Lucas walked beside me down the hallway, matching my pace effortlessly. "You handled yourself well," he said. "Mostly." "Mostly," I snapped. He smirked, tilting his head, calm and deliberate. "Your father would have exploded halfway through that meeting. You just need to work on keeping your emotions from showing." I didn't respond. I felt his gaze on me, measuring, calm, maybe entertained. My stomach twisted in a way I didn't want to admit. His cologne lingered in the air, cedar, smoke, something expensive. Long after he left. When I got back to my office, I shut the door and sank into my chair. I told myself it was just business. Lucas was just another advisor, and I was just trying not to mess up. Still, the weight in my chest wouldn't go away. Later that evening, I walked through the vineyard to clear my head. The sunset turned the hills gold, the vines catching the last bit of light. It should have felt peaceful, but all I felt was pressure. My father's voice, the workers' glances, Lucas's calm, knowing look, they all echoed in my head. This place was supposed to be mine now. My name on every bottle, my responsibility. Yet it still felt like theirs. And then there was Lucas, always composed, always 2 steps ahead, The way he spoke in the meeting. Not cruel, just sharp enough to make me want to prove him wrong. Somehow, he lingered in my thoughts more than I wanted him to. I ran a hand through my hair and muttered, "Focus." The vineyard was mine. Or it had to be. I went back to my office, turned on the lamp, and stared at the reports again. I wasn't going to let them see me fail. Not my father, not the board. Especially not Lucas. Because beneath all the rivalry, beneath the calm exchanges and silent challenges, there was something I couldn't quite ignore. The way his gaze stayed on me a moment too long. The way my pulse reacted when he said my name. I shook it off. This was about the vineyard. It had to be. I just needed to make it mine. Whatever it took. A week later. A week had passed since that first board meeting, and I still couldn't get Lucas out of my head. Not just his face, but the way he moved. The way his eyes seemed to measure everything about me. I didn't even fully understand why it mattered so much. Workdays blurred into late nights as I walked the vineyard, checking irrigation systems and inventory, trying to focus on numbers and soil instead of the way Lucas's voice lingered in my ears. But every plan I drafted, every proposal I submitted, he found a way to dissect it. Not cruelly, not unfairly, but with an ease that made me second-guess myself. It was during a meeting about the new wine blends that I finally lost my composure. I had suggested a bold, experimental blend, and Lucas had raised a single brow. "Risky," he said softly. The word alone felt like a challenge. "I can handle the risk," I said, trying not to let the heat in my chest show. Lucas leaned back in his chair, eyes piercing, voice like velvet with an edge I couldn't ignore. "Can you? Or do you just think you can?" The room went quiet. I could feel everyone watching, waiting to see which of us would break first. I snapped, more sharply than I intended. "I'm not here to doubt myself under the shadow of someone else's experience." He didn't flinch, didn't blink. He only smiled that slow, dangerous smile, like he'd been waiting for me to show fire. "Good," he said. "I like fire." I felt a shiver run down my spine, one I didn't want to name, one that made me glance at him more than necessary. After the meeting, I stormed out into the vineyard, needing space, needing air, needing distance from him. Even though my body already betrayed me with an ache I didn't want to name. The golden sunset washed over the vines, painting everything in warm amber. And for a moment, I let myself breathe. Then I heard him. "You're really something, Charles Ellis." Lucas's voice slid through the quiet, low and measured, almost too close. I spun around. He was leaning against a post, casual but commanding. The sunlight caught his sharp blue eyes, making them glow with something I couldn't decipher. Amusement, interest, or something darker. "What do you want?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral, though my chest was racing. "To see if you're as stubborn as your father says," he replied, stepping closer. Just close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating off him. My stomach twisted, my mind whirling with a strange mix of frustration and something else I wasn't ready to identify. I wanted to walk away, but my body refused to listen. I swallowed hard, heart pounding. "I'm not interested in—" "You are," he cut in smoothly, leaning closer so that I had to tilt my head to meet his gaze. His words weren't loud, but every syllable pressed against me like a challenge. "Even if you don't know it yet." There was a long pause, the air thick with unspoken things. His hand brushed against my arm. Light, almost accidental, but I felt it everywhere. My muscles tensed, my stomach flipped, and for the first time, I didn't step back. I started, then stopped. My words felt useless. I couldn't deny the pull. I couldn't fight it. and the frustration of wanting him while resenting him made my head spin. Lucas's lips curled into that infuriating smirk. Relax. You'll figure it out. He walked past me, leaving a trail of cologne and warmth in his wake. I stared after him, breathing too fast, chest tight, mind screaming that I needed to run. And also that I couldn't. I didn't understand what this was yet. Desire, curiosity, a dangerous mix of both. But I knew one thing. I couldn't stop thinking about him, and that scared me more than I'd ever admit. Days later, the clock on the study wall ticked past midnight, its slow hands taunting me. I stormed in, frustration boiling over, and dropped the thick file of strategy and financial reports on the desk. Papers slid everywhere, graphs and charts scattering like they were mocking me too. I ran a hand through my hair, jaw tight. Why can't I get this right? My father's voice still echoed in my head, sharp and disappointed. A shadow filled the doorway. Lucas, leaning there like he owned the place, arms crossed, tie loose, expression unreadable except for that calm he carried like armor. You must be enjoying this, I muttered, sharper than I meant. He chuckled softly, that low sound that always got under my skin. Hardly. For a beginner, you're holding the pressure better than most. I rolled my eyes. Yeah? That's supposed to make me feel better? Maybe. He stepped in and shut the door behind him. The click sounded too final for how small the room suddenly felt. Or maybe it means I know how to help you. I sank into the chair, flipping through the mess of papers. I don't even get the Vineyard's expense algorithm. Every number feels like it's waiting to bite me. And Dad's. Glare today? I swear he lives for that. Lucas dragged a chair closer, close enough that I felt the brush of his sleeve against mine when he sat. The air changed, heavier, quieter. Algorithms aren't magic, he said, leaning forward, voice low enough to make me look up. You just have to learn their rhythm, the flow of cost, timing, and risk. Watch. He took my pen, his hand brushing mine briefly. My pulse jumped at the touch. He started explaining, slow and deliberate, eyes flicking toward me more than the page. I tried to listen, really, but it was hard when he was this close. The faint smell of cedar and coffee clinging to him, the quiet scrape of his sleeve against mine when he wrote. You're really enjoying this, I said under my breath. He didn't look up. Only a little. That hint of a smile tugged at the corner of his mouth, and damn it, it did something to me. Hours blurred. Between half-serious arguments over calculations and laughter over my terrible handwriting, something softened between us. You're awful at this, he teased once, tapping my notebook. Maybe you're just too fast, I shot back. His gaze lifted to mine, steady, a little daring. You'll catch up. We stared a second too long. Then he looked away, flipping a page, pretending not to notice my flushed face. By the time dawn crept through the window, the reports finally made sense. I leaned back, exhaling. Got it. Lucas smirked, leaning closer like he was letting me in on a secret. See? You can do it. But your final strategy? I'll only approve it if you can convince me. His voice dropped slightly. Otherwise, we start over. I huffed, pretending not to smile. Fine. Challenge accepted. He tilted his head, eyes softer in the early light. Good. I expect brilliance. And I expect less attitude. He laughed quietly, the kind that settled in my chest and refused to leave. Our eyes met again, and for a second, the room felt suspended. Quiet, charged, like even the clock had stopped. The night had been long and frustrating. But with Lucas beside me, it didn't feel lonely anymore. The morning. The sunlight hit the boardroom hard, bright and unforgiving. I straightened my tie and gripped the file in my hands. This was it. The strategy I'd stayed up all night perfecting. The numbers Lucas had helped me untangle. The expense plan I hoped would finally earn my father's approval. "Charles, present your strategy," my father said, eyes flicking to Lucas before returning to me. The board leaned forward, curious, expectant. I took a deep breath. "Okay, here's the plan. I've gone through every expense, every cost, and lined it up to optimize the vineyard's resources. The goal is to reduce unnecessary spending and make operations smoother." I flipped the first page, walking them through the numbers, charts, and logic I'd stayed up last night perfecting. There were nods, murmurs, and even a small smile from my father. For a moment, I thought I'd done it. Then Lucas spoke. "Charles," he said, calm, smooth, leaning back in his chair. "This is fine, but it doesn't fully account for seasonal changes or hidden costs in labor. If we applied this blindly, some parts of the vineyard could be underfunded, and bottling operations might run over budget." I blinked, shocked. "Lucas, I used exactly what you explained to me last night. Every adjustment, every step. You walked me through it." He tilted his head, calm as ever. "Yes, but you only followed the steps. You missed the bigger picture. One slip here could cause real problems. The vineyard isn't just numbers. It's patterns and risks you have to see, not just calculate." I felt my chest tighten, my hands clenching. The board, my father, who had been impressed just moments ago, was now nodding at Lucas, seconding his points. My plan, my hard work, was disapproved again. I glared at Lucas, furious. "So, my strategy's useless? After all that?" He didn't flinch. "No, Charles. You just didn't see the weak points. One mistake in expenses can snowball, and you didn't catch it." I slammed the file down and stormed out, needing space. The sunlight outside felt good, but couldn't cool the anger building in me. A moment later, I sensed him. Lucas followed, walking calmly until he was just behind me. "You can't keep running," he said quietly. "I'm not running," I snapped. "You enjoy making this harder for me." He smiled faintly. "No, Charles. I'm trying to show you where you're going wrong. One more mistake with expenses, and it could get serious." "I don't want that for you," I scowled. "Why do you even care? You keep putting obstacles in my way." "Because you're like your father," he said, stepping closer, tilting his head. "Stubborn, reckless, impossible to ignore, and easy to attract danger. You're not ready to handle it yet. Trust me." I straightened, chest rising. "You're calling me incompetent, Lucas." "I am ready to handle any danger." His voice dropped, low and husky. "The only danger you want right now is what we have between us." My heart skipped. The warmth radiating from him, the slow confidence in his voice. Intoxicating. Desire stirred deep inside me, confusing and thrilling. His hand reached up, brushing a stray strand of hair from my forehead. Fingers lingered. I didn't pull away. I should have. My mind screamed yes, but another part, a part I barely recognized, ached to stay. "What do we have between us?" I whispered. "Temptation. To burn each other," he replied, leaning closer. "I don't..." My voice trembled despite my effort to sound firm. "Shall I prove it?" He closed the space between us. His lips hovered near mine, testing, teasing. I froze, heart hammering, mind screaming logic while my body betrayed me. The vineyard, the sunlight, the quiet. All of it faded until there was only him. My knees threatened to buckle. Hands found his chest instinctively, feeling the warmth and strength beneath the crisp shirt. For a long moment, we just held each other. Breaths mingled, hearts racing. Words weren't needed. Everything was unspoken but understood. Yet the kiss never came. Just tension, raw and palpable. My chest heaved, cheeks flushed, mind spinning. "You?" I started, voice weak. "I know," he said, eyes darkening. But now is not the right time. One day I'll give you what you want." His thumb brushed my lower lip. "What I want." I swallowed hard, trembling, caught between anger, frustration, and a pull I couldn't name. And somehow I knew that pull wasn't going away. Next morning. The morning light hurt, not because of the sun, but because of last night. I hadn't slept. After leaving the vineyard, I went straight to the manor, showered in silence, and sat on the edge of my bed until dawn crept through the windows. I kept replaying the night. His teasing, the way his hands lingered, how close we'd gotten before everything shifted. It hadn't been just a moment. It had been something I wasn't ready for, but couldn't stop myself from taking. The weight of it pressed down as I walked into the kitchen. My father was already there, reading the paper, coffee half empty. "You're up early," he said, without looking up. "Couldn't sleep," I replied, keeping my voice steady. He made a quiet hum, unimpressed, like he knew more than I wanted him to. I grabbed a bottle of water and stepped outside. The air was cold. The vineyard stretched endlessly before me, rows of vines that had witnessed my weakness and confusion. I still didn't know if last night had been a mistake or a revelation. By noon, I saw him. Lucas at the far end of the field, clipboard in hand, calm as ever. My chest tightened. I wanted to be angry at him. For the ease, the control, the way he made something so intense look effortless. He caught my eye, nodded slightly, then turned away. That was it. No smirk, no tease, no acknowledgement. Just silence. It shouldn't have stung, but it did. The hours dragged. Workers moved about, and laughter carried across the fields. I buried myself in work, checking soil readings, talking to foremen, anything to stay busy. Still, I kept looking for him. By late afternoon, I couldn't take it anymore. I found him in the cellar, checking the temperature of the wine casks. "We need to talk," I said, voice sharper than intended. He didn't flinch. "Do we?" "Yes," I snapped. He turned to face me, expression unreadable. "Go on." I hesitated, jaw tight. "Last night was a mistake. You need to stay away from me." "Do I?" He stepped closer, and I felt the same pull as the night before. "Yes," I said, forcing the word. "That closeness is wrong." His eyes flickered. Not hurt, but something else. "Then say it like you mean it." I couldn't. Not without my voice betraying me. He leaned closer, voice soft. "You can't undo what you felt. You can lie to yourself, but you can't erase it." "Don't," I started, but he stepped back before I could finish. "Fine. Pretend you don't want me. I'll do the same." The words hit harder than I expected. He turned and left, footsteps fading into the hall, leaving me alone with the hum of the cellar and the echo of everything unsaid. For the next few days, we barely spoke. When we did, it was strictly business, polite, efficient, civility that felt sharp like a blade between us. The vineyard felt heavier with him there. Every glance reminded me of that night, of how alive I had felt. And yet, there was comfort in the silence. As much as I hated it, I hated the thought of him leaving even more. One evening, after the workers left, I found myself walking toward his cottage. I didn't know why. Maybe to end it. Maybe to begin. Something I didn't understand. I stopped outside, hand raised to knock, then froze. Through the half-open curtain, I saw him inside, shirt unbuttoned, writing in a notebook, frowning softly, unarmored. I watched him for a long moment, then quietly turned and left. The distance between us was unbearable, but crossing it felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. Thrilling, dangerous, impossible to walk away from. And the worst part? I knew it wasn't over. Whatever had started that night in the vineyard had rooted deep, like the vines themselves. Silence wouldn't make it die. A week later, The rain started just as I reached the main house, heavy, steady, drowning out everything else. Maybe it helped me think. Maybe it made it worse. I'd spent the whole week pretending not to notice Lucas watching me in meetings, pretending not to feel the heat in my chest when our hands brushed, pretending that I hadn't spent every night replaying what happened in the vineyard. But that night, pretending wasn't an option anymore. He found me in the west cellar, pacing between the barrels. He'd just come in from the rain, shirt clinging to his chest, hair dripping. When he saw me, he didn't say anything at first. Then, "You've been miserable without me," he said quietly. I scoffed. "Don't flatter yourself." He gave a small laugh. "You're terrible at lying, Charles." That stung more than I wanted it to. I turned on him, jaw tight. "You think this is funny? You think I wanted any of this?" He stepped closer. "No, I think you needed it." His voice was low, almost vibrating through me. I wanted to deny it, but he wasn't wrong. When I tried to walk past him, he caught my wrist. Not hard, just enough to make me stop. "If you really want me gone, say it." But I didn't. I couldn't. Instead, I grabbed his collar and pulled him in. The kiss hit like a spark, rough, desperate. All the tension that had built up between us finally snapped. His hands slid to my waist, fingers tracing my shirt until they met skin. The smell of oak and rain mixed with his cologne, grounding me in a way I didn't know I needed. He pushed me back against a barrel, his breath hot against my neck. "You want me," he murmured. "I don't," I lied, fisting his shirt. "I hate you." He smiled against my skin. Liar. After that, it was all blurred edges. His mouth on my collarbone, my fingers in his hair, quiet gasps I couldn't hold back. It wasn't just desire. It was released. A break from pressure and expectation. When it finally slowed, his forehead rested against mine. We were both breathing hard, trying to steady ourselves. "You think this changes nothing?" he asked. "I think it changes everything," I said softly. We stood there in silence, rain pattering on the roof, the air thick with what neither of us dared to call love. For the first time, neither of us was pretending, but the world didn't stop for us. The next day, my father called an emergency meeting. Some of the numbers weren't adding up. Export costs, supplier payments, discrepancies buried deep in the accounts. He was discussing it with the manager, another guy my father trusts after Lucas. Lucas stayed quiet during the whole thing, but I saw the tension in his jaw. After the meeting, I caught up to him in the hallway. "You knew about this," I said. He didn't deny it. "Yeah." "For how long?" "Long enough to know your father isn't the one behind it." That threw me off. "Then who?" He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Someone inside. Someone close. I don't have proof yet." My chest tightened. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you would have gone straight to your father," he said simply. "And I can't risk it. Not until I know for sure." It stung, how he decided what I could handle. "You should have trusted me." He looked at me then, his voice softer. "I do trust you. More than anyone. That's exactly why I can't drag you into this." Something in his tone cracked me open again. Half frustration, half something that felt too much like affection. "Then stop treating me like I'm some clueless kid," I said. "I want to stand beside you, not behind you." He stared me for a long pause before he let out a low groan and muttered, "God, the things I want to do with you, Charles." I blinked, caught off guard. "What does that—" He cupped my face before I could finish and kissed me again. This time, slower, steadier, not desperate like before, but deep and sure, full of everything we'd been avoiding. When he finally pulled back, his forehead rested against mine again. "If I fall, I don't want you dragged down with me." Too late. I whispered. I think I am already falling. His smile was small, tired, but contemplative. A week later. The vineyard felt heavier that week. The rain had stopped, but the air was still. Thick, like it was holding on to everything left unsaid between Lucas and me. We kept it professional. Polite nods in meetings, quick exchanges about orders and finances. Nothing more. But behind every look, there was that unspoken pull neither of us dared to name. Then Adam showed up. He is the son of Dad's influential business associate. He was charming, loud, and absolutely aware of the attention he drew, especially from Lucas. At first I ignored it. But during the wine tasting event, I caught Adam leaning too close to Lucas, his voice low, smile playful. "You know, Valentine," he said, brushing imaginary lint off Lucas's sleeve. "I've heard stories about your management skills. Maybe you could give me some personal lessons?" The crowd chuckled. Lucas didn't. He stayed calm, expression blank, eyes steady. Not interested, but not stopping it either. Adam laughed, clearly amused. "Silent type, huh?" I like that. Something twisted in my stomach. Jealousy. Sharp and ugly. I tried to shake it off, tried to tell myself Lucas didn't care. But when I caught Adam resting a hand on Lucas's shoulder, and Lucas still didn't move, it was over. After the event, I found Lucas by the West Vineyard, where the light was fading and the air smelled faintly of wet leaves. "So that's it?" I said, my voice coming out colder than I meant. "You just stand there and let him flirt with you?" He looked at me, confused. "Charles..." "No, don't Charles me. You didn't even stop him. You just stood there like it didn't bother you at all." Lucas sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Because I can't be seen getting involved in anything that isn't business. Not with you." That stung. "Why?" He hesitated, then lowered his voice. "Because someone's watching us. Someone who knows too much. If they see me getting too close to you, it'll raise questions I can't afford to answer right now." I frowned. "So what? You can't be seen talking to me like a normal person? You can't risk anyone thinking we're... What? Friends? More than that?" He stayed silent, eyes avoiding mine. That silence said everything. I stepped closer, my pulse hammering. "So you're saying whatever this is between us, it's not something you're willing to stand by?" Lucas clenched his jaw, struggling for words. "It's not that simple." "No," I cut in, holding up my hand. "It's always not that simple with you. But you know what? I'm done waiting for answers that never come. You are being secretive about the mole behind the vineyard mishap happening. And now you are denying being upfront with your feelings for me?" His brows furrowed, panic flickering in his eyes. "Charles, please..." "I can't do this right now," I said, my voice cracking. "You're a riddle to me, Lucas, and I can't with you." I stepped back, my chest aching, heart twisting in something I didn't want to name. "I need space." He didn't stop me, didn't chase, just stood there, eyes shadowed with something between regret and defeat. For weeks, I drowned myself in work. I handled shipments, oversaw tastings, and checked on the grapes at dawn and dusk. The vineyard ran smoothly, but inside, everything felt off. Every path, every scent of oak and wine reminded me of him. His voice, his touch, his calm that used to steady me. One night, I wandered to the vineyard's edge where it had all started. The stars hung low, the air cool and quiet. My hand found the wooden post where Lucas had first touched me, steadying me, grounding me. I exhaled shakily, the words slipping out before I could stop them. "I don't know how to fix this." No answer came. Not from the stars, not from the wind, but deep down I knew. No matter how much distance or hurt stood between us, Lucas Valentine had a piece of me I couldn't take back. And somehow, I didn't want to. A week later. It had been a week since I had asked for space from Lucas. A week since Lucas had vanished from my life, leaving behind a storm I had no control over. The vineyard had fallen into chaos without him. Accounts were under scrutiny, shipments were delayed, and rumors were spreading like wildfire about mismanagement and corruption. And yet I kept going, day after day, hollow and numb, forcing myself to appear competent even when exhaustion clawed at every inch of me. I spent nights walking the rows of grapevines, letting my hands brush against the leaves, trying to imagine him there beside me. The scent of rain on soil reminded me of the way his skin had smelled, a mix of cedar and warmth, and the memory of his voice, low and teasing, cut through the darkness more sharply than the cold wind. The first kiss, the brush of lips under the stars, the heat of him pressed against me. They haunted me. I hated how much I missed him. Then the raid happened. It was sudden. 1 minute, I was checking the barrels near the west shed. The next, the sound of sirens and officials sweeping into the vineyard made my heart seize. Papers were being examined, ledgers flipped open, computers interrogated, and every eye in the room turned to me. "You'll have to come with us, Mr. Ellis," one inspector said curtly. "There's evidence of serious irregularities." My father intervened immediately, voice firm, pleading. "This must be a misunderstanding. My son has just inherited. He could not possibly be responsible. Take me with you instead." The inspector shook his head, unmoved. I felt a cold knot settle in my stomach. All of it, the long nights, the arguments, the stress, felt meaningless in that instant. And then a voice rang out, cutting through the tension. "Stop!" Every head turned. And there he was, Lucas Valentine. He looked broken, bruised, dirt-streaked. His shirt was torn in places. Hands were trembling slightly from exhaustion. But his eyes, those piercing blue eyes, burned with clarity. He strode into the center of the chaos, hands raised, every bit of him exuding authority. "I have proof," he said, voice firm. "The man responsible for this exploitation is not Charles Ellis. It's him." He pointed at one of the managers my father had trusted blindly. The same one who had controlled numbers and shipments with a web of deceit so intricate that I would have been crushed under the blame had Lucas not intervened. The manager stammered, denying everything. My father's face went pale. But Lucas, unshaken, presented the documents, emails, intercepted orders, and even recorded conversations proving the manager's corruption. "I was held captive by his men," Lucas continued, voice low, almost a growl. "He knew I had evidence against him, and that I was getting closer to Charles. And the moment he saw me as a threat, he got me abducted. I escaped, and came straight here to protect the Ellis family name, and Charles. It all fell into place. The meetings where Lucas had blocked my ideas, the sharp refusals, every single one had been an attempt to protect me from being implicated. Every step, every annoying objection, every tease had been a shield against disaster I didn't even realize was imminent." My father's anger exploded. He rebuked the manager, calling guards and having him taken away, the sound of cuffs and footsteps echoing like a bell of justice. With Lucas's guidance, every corrupted part of the vineyard's operation was corrected, the investigation redirected, and my name cleared. I should have felt relief. I should have felt gratitude. Instead, I felt mortification. I had doubted him. I had accused him silently in my heart, questioned his motives, and even pushed him away when he had only meant well. The weight of my mistake pressed down, and I found myself unable to face him. So I left. Silently, without a word. Even as Lucas stayed behind, directing operations with the quiet authority that had always drawn me to him. That night, I walked the vineyard alone. The stars were brilliant above, silver light glinting on the vines. My heart ached with the emptiness of the past month, with the absence of him, and with my own shame. I didn't even notice him approach until I felt warmth against my back. A hand slipped around my waist, firm and grounding. "Lucas." "You don't have to blame yourself, Charles," he whispered, voice gentle, breath warm against my ear. "Because you were right in your place." I turned to look at him, eyes heavy with tears, voice breaking. "How can you still talk to me after I pushed you away? Why aren't you angry? Why did you save me?" His hands cupped my face, thumbs brushing my cheek softly. "You still don't get it, do you? I love you, Charles. From the first meeting, from the arguments, from every challenge. I never thought I'd fall. That kiss in the vineyard? It was my awakening. It made me realize I love you." Tears slipped freely down my cheeks. I pressed a fist to his chest, then impulsively, my lips to his. It was messy, raw, desperate. "You idiot. You were kidnapped, you got hurt, and here you are confessing love?" He chuckled softly, shaking his head. "If getting wounded could earn me your kiss, then I'd happily do it again. Protecting you isn't a choice, it's necessary." My hand went to the nape of his neck, cupping him tightly. "You don't get to play savior by hurting yourself. It hurts me when you do." He looked at me, huskily, voice low. "Why?" "Because," I whispered, voice trembling, tears spilling into his shirt. "Because I love you too." That was all it took. He leaned in, lips pressing against mine with intent and urgency, kisses deep and demanding, hands moving with an intimacy that made my knees weak. The night stretched on, shadows of vines around us. Stars witnessed to our reclamation. We kissed, touched, and held each other like we were rebuilding something broken. Not just bodies, but hearts. The passion escalated naturally. A flood of emotions too long restrained, until there was no hesitation, no silence, only the truth of us in each other's arms. I gave myself to him completely. My first time, my first surrender. And it wasn't tender or naive. It was passionate, messy, filled with forgiveness, trust, and love that had been forged through fire. Every shiver, every sigh, every whispered name was true. When we finally collapsed against the warm earth, tangled in sweat and stars, I knew we had crossed a line from tension into something enduring, something real. Lucas traced lazy circles across my back, voice husky with emotion. "We're here." Finally, I nodded, letting my forehead rest against his chest, breathing him in. "Finally," I whispered back, voice soft, heart full. "Finally." And for the first time since that night in the vineyard, the world felt like it could be ours. Messy, complicated, dangerous, but undeniably ours. Because we had both fallen, both fought, and finally, both saved each other. Epilogue. 3 months later. 3 months had passed since that night under the stars. The court case had finally ended. The corrupt manager who had threatened to ruin the vineyard and me was behind bars, his schemes fully exposed. The investigation was over. The vineyard cleared of every stain Lucas had fought to erase. Life, slowly, was returning to something resembling normal. I had spent the time buried in work, rebuilding not just the vineyard but myself. Yet even through the long days, through the endless audits and inspections, the thought of Lucas lingered, always just behind my ribs, just out of reach. And then he returned. We were in the main hall for a small celebration, my father at the center raising a glass. "I don't know how to thank you, Lucas," he said genuinely, voice heavy with gratitude. "If there's anything you want, anything at all, I will give it to you." The room fell quiet, and all eyes turned to him. I felt my pulse stutter, my chest tightening. Lucas's eyes flicked to mine, a faint smirk tugging at his lips, Before I could process it, he stepped forward and, with fluid ease, pulled me against him by the waist. I stumbled slightly, heart hammering, and my father's eyes narrowed in confusion. "Lucas," I began, cheeks heating. Lucas didn't break his gaze with my father. Instead, he grinned, voice smooth and playful. "Actually, there is something I want." My father's frown deepened, and my heart thumped with equal parts fear and exhilaration. "Yes?" he asked cautiously. Lucas tilted his head toward me, holding me close, lips barely brushing my ear. "I want your son." I choked on a laugh, eyes wide. "Lucas." He turned back to my father, dead serious, yet somehow impossibly charming. "Give me your son's hand, and bless us." My father's expression shifted from confusion to stunned realization, then something that bordered on exasperation and amusement. After a long pause, he finally exhaled, running a hand down his face. "I suppose if this is what he wants." "Lucas, you've got my blessing." Relief washed over me, and I leaned into Lucas, whispering, "You're impossible." Lucas chuckled, tilting my chin up so our eyes met. "And yet you love me anyway." I rolled my eyes, shaking my head, but my smile betrayed me. "I hate you for making me fall for you." His lips captured mine then, soft at first, teasing, then deepening into the kind of kiss that carried months of tension, fear, heartbreak, and love, all melting into one perfect moment. Around us, the Vineyard staff clapped quietly, secretly rooting for us, while my father shook his head, muttering something about the absurdity of his son's terrible taste in business partners. I peeked at Lucas, who winked at me. "Looks like we're officially endorsed by your dad," he whispered. I buried my face in his shoulder, laughing quietly through my blush. Endorsed by him, and still somehow infuriating. "Infuriating enough to melt you," Lucas murmured, lips brushing my hair. "Just like the Vineyard did." I couldn't argue with that. Under the stars that had once witnessed our first kiss, under vines that had seen our tension, our tears, and our passion, everything finally felt right. The Vineyard, our hearts, and even the chaos that had defined the past month seemed to exhale along with us. I laughed softly against his chest, shaking my head because it wasn't just the Vineyard or the stars. It was Lucas, all of him, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. The end ever had someone completely infuriate you, and then completely steal your heart anyway? Thanks for watching. Subscribe to become part of our Rainbow Force, and consider joining our membership for early access and exclusive content. Stay wholesome